One of the crypto coins I am most excited about for this crypto altcoin season is a coin named HBAR. And I've talked about this coin on the channel a lot over the past couple of months and years, and that's also because the coin has historically done really well every single run. Matter of fact, just earlier in the year, HBAR saw some staggering gains of roughly 900% or so in just a few months. So again, just to put into perspective, HBAR was trading at roughly 4 cents, and by the end of the crazy run, you can see it was trading at roughly 40 cents, which is a 10x in just a span of I'm gonna call this 2 months, right? November all the way to about December. Matter of fact, it basically all happened within 1 month, then slightly down and then peaked again in January. Just absolutely crazy when you start breaking it down. And what I've basically noticed is that HBAR is one of the coins in the XRP, XLM, Algorand, QNT, XDC type of little circle of sorts where all these coins go up together. Whenever one goes up, it tends to be the way that all the other ones go up as well. And since I've already made a video talking about how excited I am for XRP and recently one for XLM, I decided to also give an update on HBAR, how I'm trading it, what I think the price can do, and what's happening right now. So to quickly break it down, right now it seems we have started yet again a pretty interesting rally, similarly to what we saw all the way back in November of last year. Now, mind you, this rally took us to some crazy heights, roughly about a 10x in 80 days, or matter of fact, in, like I just told you, 30 to 80 days, depending on what you would like to say. As it currently stands, we've gone up roughly, I'm going to say, 120% or so in the past month, which is good, but relative to the gains we saw back then, it really isn't that much. And the most important thing is, we haven't been able to take out that double top. No. We didn't even get close to those prices, as that's roughly 35 cents, and we got to about 28 with a slight little top at 30. And while that's all cool and all, that's still not great from the perspective that HBAR has seen even higher prices in the past. For example, 45 cents and even peaked at roughly 60. One of the things I love to do most is to actually take a look at how some of the coins are performing versus Bitcoin. And what is clear is that throughout the last couple of weeks here, most of the altcoins have been performing great against BTC, HBAR being one of them. It has not been left behind, indicating basically the altcoin season. But still, to go back to those earlier levels of earlier in the year, we've still got about 80% worth of gains to go from these current levels. And to go back to the 2021 heights, we actually have still got more than 400% gains to go. But I normally don't like to take the highest point. In this case, let's use one of the closing points, which from here would basically mean about 300% worth of gains, or roughly a 4x, bringing HBAR from the current price of roughly 27 cents to a little bit over $1 without the balance being shifted too much. And the reason I'm actually more excited for coins like HBAR to do it than potentially for XLM or XRP even is because, first of all, HBAR doesn't really have that much more to go. It's a little bit easier for it to do so. And even though you can't always just take the price alone and say, oh, it actually hasn't hit a high, because theoretically speaking, right, since there is a lot more HBAR now, the market cap back then was only 6.5 billion. Right now it's 11.5 billion, right? So even though the price was significantly higher back then, still right now, HBAR as an asset in terms of market cap is bigger. But I'd still like to argue that if we take a look back at the January levels, we still here have actually not really peaked. But let me just say this. I generally speaking believe that most of these top coins can do about a 3x or so from their 2021 high without it being too much of a hassle. Now, if we were to take a look at market cap, that would already happen pretty quickly at maybe like the $20 billion mark, so roughly a 2x. If we take a look at price though, yeah, from that angle, roughly a 3, 4, something like that x from 40 cents. So let's say about a 5 or so x from these prices really is within margin where nobody would look up at it weird. Also, in terms of market cap, currently that it places it at the top 8, but you have to consider that if the market were to move up a little bit, most of these coins would also move up significantly. So relatively, it could stay in about the same spot, number 15, because I do believe on average most of these coins will see a 4 or 5x. And again, that is my baseline. And if you're asking how my trading for HBAR has been going, even though this bot was not the beefiest in terms of size, it was only about a $10,000 bot, but only 3x leverage, we were still able to take some crazy gains home with this over the past couple of weeks here, the past couple of months. But I still personally believe that this is nothing, because if you start taking a good look, even though HBAR has really not been the craziest of runners just quite yet, we kind of expect that crazy run to happen, we were still able to get out about 129% as it currently stands, of which a good chunk, about 11% or so, is actually from only buying and selling HBAR as the price went down lower and as the price went higher. Because if you don't know how these bots work, I can show you, for example, here on my 10K to a million challenge. You can see this is the P&L, right? It's mostly been trading at a loss, but over time, because I basically have it set orders for buying lower and lower and lower as the price comes down, and every time it goes back up selling, it's basically able to cash out these grids, which you can see on the left. In this case here, it's cashed at about 2.5% in the past 4 days or something like that. And we either get the price to go up from the last price, which we basically reinvested at for the challenge, or at some point, just even if it's break even, these grid profits are enough because we compound every 5%. XLM, for example, it was at a loss for a long time, as you can see, and all of a sudden it was one of my best performing bots. We had 10K times 5, but it was able to put us back 27K, which is amazing. I had a big strategy for HBAR as well. I was going to add and do some cool things, but HBAR, ever since it started, was never at a really big loss. You might say here that 49% or so is huge, but for the fact that HBAR, I just realized that I got stuck there for a little second. I was going to say we got in at about 19 cents, something like that. I then doubled down somewhere lower, I don't remember the exact price, while still keeping in the back of my head that if HBAR is not able to hold this previous low, it's going to be some interesting times. But it was able to bounce off of, even though it broke through here, our most important moving average, it was able to bounce off the other moving averages, and ever since then just go on an absolute rampage. If I could go back, I'd play it differently, but we can't, and the only thing I can do now is start thinking about the near future. And my thoughts are that as of this point, HBAR is in a really good spot, even though from a certain angle, you could argue that, well, currently things are coming down, and since it's not able to break the local heights just now, there's no real bullish outlook for it. I keep saying it differently. As long as Bitcoin doesn't have a massive breakdown here, I like to extrapolate a little bit and take a look at it from this angle, which is currently the price is consolidating. You could argue that, but I believe a breakout towards the upside is way higher of a likelihood than breaking back down. Like I said, as long as Bitcoin doesn't go for a massive crash one of these days. And the most interesting level to watch on the short term is around this 33-cent mark, but once that is broken, I do believe it could be a pretty interesting and pretty quick rise all the way towards 43, and once that's breached, we kind of have free reign, right? I really think from that point forward, maybe we have some resistance at a psychological barrier, 50 cents or so, but I do not think the road towards $1 should even be that hard for a coin like HBAR, at least not in this position, because the coin is used to these massive rallies, it seems, recently. Again, I'm just putting out a baseline here for what my thinking process is. When exactly will I sell is hard to say. It depends on how fast the market decides to pick itself up. Theoretically speaking, in terms of market caps, we are already extremely high. In terms of price, we have not really been doing that crazy, but since I've basically got all these targets for XRP, XLM, all these, I do wonder, if I've got such high hopes for these, why would HBAR not be able to do it? And the thing is, some points of the run, XRP does a bit better. Sometimes HBAR, sometimes XLM. Since I am not sure where in this utility season which one does best, I like to just stack up different coins. And HBAR is one of my biggest holdings, mainly for the reason that every single time I take a look at it, it puts a smile on my face because it just does those crazy numbers. But I have to size up though. I have to start buying a bit more, and that's the funny thing. Right now, you might again argue we are doing pretty good in terms of market cap, right? But I still consider us to be pretty freaking cheap for how crazy this run is going to get. And I still think many of our coins could probably 10x, but I don't like to say 10x. I like to always say, nah, take a little bit of a chill pill. We're already a little bit into the run. Just kind of numb it down, 5x or so across the board. Ain't that hard normally. I'm not your financial advisor though. Nothing in this video is financial advice. These are just my thoughts. I'm making no guarantees to you. Ultimately, nobody knows, right? But these are my thoughts, and here's what I'm going to be doing. But I really wouldn't be satisfied if HBAR doesn't even cross $1 this season. And if you were hoping for my thoughts for HBAR, $15, $25, There's a lot of possibilities, but it depends on how high Bitcoin goes. Again, relatively, if Bitcoin were to double, we might also be able to put our target of a 4x upwards of maybe an 8x or so this season if Bitcoin goes to 250,000. But that is, again, a very big if. For the most part, I'm still buying. Even at these prices, I don't think we're that high yet. And if you disagree, you have a different target, you think about it completely differently, let me know down below.